Watanabe and Naoko's first meeting and Kizuki's death. Watanabe, now 37, sat on a plane, listening to the steady flow of music in his headphones. The melody was hauntingly familiar, pulling him gently into a sense of nostalgia mixed with sorrow. As he closed his eyes, the weight of memories drifted over him, returning him to a time that was now a part of his distant past. The music touched a part of him that he'd often kept tucked away, bringing back images and sensations he hadn't dared to revisit in years. He was 17 again, and the memory of Kizuki's death, his closest friend, came rushing back with a pain that was as dull as it was unrelenting. Despite the years that had passed, Kizuki's shadow remained, lingering like a faint but unshakable presence. The boy who once seemed so carefree, who had once laughed and joked with him without a hint of darkness, had left him with an empty space that he would carry for the rest of his life. Memories came flooding back, filling his mind with snapshots of that time, vivid and unfiltered. He remembered the quiet evening in late autumn, a chill already biting the air. The phone rang, piercing the silence, and the voice on the other end told him that Kizuki was dead. The news was like a bolt of lightning that shattered his world, leaving him stunned, frozen, unable to comprehend the full extent of what he had just heard. Watanabe hurried to Kizuki's house. By the time he arrived, night had settled in, and the streetlights cast a cold, distant glow across the empty street. He stood there in silence, his gaze fixed on the solemn image of Kizuki's face in the framed photograph. An inexplicable sense of loss welled up within him, a void that he could neither name nor fill. Why had Kizuki chosen this end? Why had his friend left without a word, leaving him with nothing but unanswered questions? Watanabe knew he would never have an answer. This empty feeling was all he had left of Kizuki. In the days after the funeral, Watanabe found himself drawn to Kizuki's girlfriend, Naoko. It wasn't that they had become close, nor did they speak much. Rather, there was an unspoken bond between them, a silent connection born of mutual loss. They would occasionally run into each other, at a bookstore, in a cafe, on some random street corner. Each time, it felt as though an invisible thread connected them, as if Kizuki's memory had created a bridge between them. They were strangers, yet Kizuki's absence tied them together in a way that only the two of them could understand. Each time he saw Naoko, Watanabe was overcome with a heavy sadness that lay between them like a shroud. Her eyes, clear and unwavering, held an echo of Kizuki's shadow, something distant and sorrowful that both drew him in and kept him at bay. Her beauty had a haunting fragility, and there was a melancholy about her that made him want to protect her, even though he knew that was impossible. She wore her sadness like a cloak, a part of her as intrinsic as her own skin, and it reminded him of the emptiness left behind by Kizuki. His death had left a crack, a chasm that separated their past from their future, and it was a gap that they both knew would always haunt their connection. With Naoko, words were rarely necessary. They both seemed to understand that the best way to remember Kizuki was in silence. Talking about him might break the delicate thread that held their memories together, and so they spoke little, but shared in their quiet presence.